What's going on, everybody? Josh Callaway here, joined alongside by James D. Jackson with Sooners Illustrated and 24/7 Sports at the stadium in Norman, where Oklahoma is 7-0, but it was not easy. A close call on Saturday for homecoming. Oklahoma 31, UCF 29. We're going to talk about it, break things down just a little bit here for you. James, close call. Like I said, this was a weird game because you came in, Oklahoma was a healthy favorite. We all kind of thought, us two, Tom Green, Colin Kennedy, that Oklahoma was going to be just fine in this game. UCF doesn't have the firepower, doesn't have enough to scare you if you're Oklahoma. Well, they scared them. It was a 6-point lead for the Knights in the fourth quarter. But the Sooners buckled down, made the plays they needed to, and got out of here with a win. But this was scary. This was a scary game for quite a while. This stadium was nervous for quite a while in this game.
Yeah, I think we kind of underestimated UCF and what they could do with their starting quarterback, back. When we look back at our predictions that we gave, but also we had no idea that Tyree Walker wasn't going to be available today.
That is very true.
That changed a lot of things because not only do you not have Andrew Anthony now, who's your deep threat receiver, that kind of changed the way defense plays. You don't have your best back either. So that changes some things here. And that made things scary. But obviously for OU, that shouldn't be, that big of a hindrance for them to win this game, which they pulled it out, but it just looked really ugly, along the way. So at this point, it was just survive in advance. Just get through this game, regroup, and get back to it next week. And you got a really good team in Kansas coming up. So got to worry about that now.
Yeah, 100%. Normally, I say for these things, let's start with the positive, and then we'll go defensively and offensively. There were both things to like in this game, but also some things to not like. Bit of a mixed bag kind of all around. We'll start with the defense. So Oklahoma defensively started off this game phenomenal. 4 straight 3-and-outs to begin for UCF. Oklahoma,
3 yards.
Yeah,
3
couldn't
yards.
cash it in offensively back the other way. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Some missed field goals really hurt them early in this game. In the middle portion, it got kind of ugly for a while. Some big, coverage busts, an 86-yard touchdown for the Knights right before halftime put them back in the lead. But at the end of the game, they buckled down and got the big stops when they needed to. Even after they relented a little and let the UCF score a touchdown and cut it down to 2, they get the big stop on the 2-point conversion. Kendall Dolby, that great open field tackle. James, just kind of put it in context, I guess. What do you make of what the defense did today? Some things to like, some things not to like. Statistically, it's kind of gross in some areas. Didn't force a turnover today, but did get some, timely sacks, made some big plays. Just what do you make of it, I guess, from today?
I see it as a defense that just did enough. They just did enough today, and that's pretty much it. As we've seen all season, they've been the unit that's been carrying this team. They've been the spectacular unit that you can rely on. They just kind of did enough today. When Oklahoma absolutely needed some stops, they got it. And there was some times it was shaky where UCF was able to get down the field on some chunk plays, here and there. Now they held them to field goals when they did. How about that kicker's name, by the way? That's like a perfect kicker.
His name's Boomer, and he's drilling kicks in Owen Field.
Yeah, I mean that's the perfect name for this kind of field. But so that stuff kind of worry you. You get people that look at that. But yeah, the defense did a good enough job to win the game. That's all you can say about that. Dolby coming in there on that 2-point conversion and stopping him. Obviously it's the biggest play of the game. You get that stop, and you can't say much more about that. That's the biggest play of the game there.
Yeah, Danny Stutzman, great again. Again, led the team in tackles. That's like a weekly thing at this point. He continues to be so good for Oklahoma. Nothing new there. Key Lawrence had a nice game. Trace Ford made probably some of his most consistently big plays.
Spectacular.
He was
spectacular today. He looked really good. Him and Ethan Downs are the 2 Oklahoma guys. Grew up in Oklahoma. They're submitting their mark here. I think they're doing a very good job, and they both had great games today, which kind of helped out. In key areas when OU needed some stops. They were the guys that kind of help out and get there. And Peyton Bowen came in as well, the 5-star safety that we talked about. Having his sack like that, it's a big hit. Like one of those sacks you're going to remember for a long time because it was clean. Came off the edge, unblocked. It was a clean hit from him.
Perfect. And Peyton Bowen, he just has a way, the way I described it earlier, is just kind of at least one massive game-changing type play basically every week.
Every game,
He is really fun to watch, certainly a budding superstar. It was very Trey Brown on Sam Ellinger-esque. And it's funny, that play happened. I turned to a couple of the guys here on the field, and I said that. That kind of reminded me of Trey Brown. They played it on the board. I don't know if that was coincidence or if that was just amazing luck or what, but perfect timing there. Offensively,
All right.
what do we say at this point? Oklahoma can't run the ball. They can't run the ball. We've been saying it all year. UCF coming into this game was literally statistically one of the worst rushing defenses in the country, and Oklahoma still wasn't able to. Now, like you said, Tyree Walker was out, suspended for this game, an in-house decision by Oklahoma. We don't know beyond that. Brent Venables said he should be back next week. So they were operating without Walker, but even so, you had Marcus Major, you have Gavin Sawchuk. You would think you could run the ball. They couldn't at all until the fourth quarter. They got it going a little bit. Sawchuk, the big 30-yarder to essentially, well, not to win the game, but put them up by 8 late. Marcus Major had some nice runs late as well, but overall, struggled to run it. James, it felt like they missed Angelo Anthony for stretches in this game. Offensively, they got it. They did kind of like last week, that when the chips were down, they got together some big drives, but overall, they struggled for a long time in this game to move the ball. There was some boo birds out. It was looking pretty ugly for a while.
It looked pretty ugly, and as we said all season, whenever OU gets their back against the wall, offensively they come through on the next drive. Yeah. Nate didn't even do that in this game. There was I told Tom Reed, I looked over and said, if I'm a betting man, I think they're going to score on this drive, and they go out there and it was 3 and out. It was like it just did not work for OU. They really had to fight for every yard they got today, and that was the biggest key. You know, you look at what happened in that first half where the receiver goes all the way down the field, 86 yards, and he has the taunting penalty, the unsportsmanlike conduct, right?
Yeah.
That gives OU more yardage up front. And that field goal that they got, that kind of decided the game when you think about it in the long-term run. You know, you get
Certainly
that's 3
helps.
points.
Yeah,
that's 3 points, and it was a two-point win. It's like one of those penalties that shouldn't have happened against UCF. That kind of hurts them when you look back at what they did. But offensively, everything else that goes with that, I mean, it's just Dylan Gabriel had a very good game when he needed it to. I mean, he didn't look like a Heisman candidate, as we've been talking about all season long, but he did pretty good in this game. And Nick Anderson, once again, being that guy.
Touchdown machine.
Like every other catch for him is a touchdown. And I think that's the stat right now. I think it's like 8 for 16 or something like that. Like it's incredible. Right. It's incredible what he's doing out there.
Yeah, Nick Anderson, touchdown machine. 2 more today. Farouk had some nice moments. Drake Stoops continues to be a very reliable option, just like you knew he'd be coming into the year. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel was fine in this game. He wasn't bad. He had a couple throws that kind of got away from him a little bit, but overall completed a decent percentage. And kind of like we said, like last week when the chips were down, some big drives and big moments down the field. And this was obviously a very important personal game for him and Jeff Lebby going against their former team. Yep. You know, Dylan Gabriel said, you know, I got a lot of love for that place. That's where I play. But, you know, he admitted it was personal. You know, I wanted to play well. Jeff Lebby, you know, at one point in time probably thought maybe he was going to be the head coach there at UCF. It didn't end up materializing. He's back at his alma mater. You know he wanted to put forth a good effort. It was okay. They won the game, which is what matters in the end. But, yeah, the run game, yeah, I mean, we had not a lot of new ground to cover. They struggled to move the ball again on the ground. That's going to continue to be something we talk about every week, it seems like, through the rest of the year.
Like I said, Josh,
yeah,
that's what the team is now. We're at a point to where we know, okay,
we're far enough in.
We're far enough in. They're not going to be good in the run game. They're just not going to be. So you got to figure out other ways to do that. And that's why I said Andrew Anthony being out kind of takes away that deep threat that you had. I mean, Nick Anderson can do that at times, but it seems like the team covered OU differently. They were able to not be so spread out. And so that kind of hurt a lot of the slant routes and in routes that OU usually runs against these teams, like with Drake Stoops or with Gavin Freeman, with Jalil Farouk, guys like that. It changes a lot. So now OU kind of gets to see that as well. So that's actually a good thing that they saw how defenses are going to play them now as they get into the second half of this schedule here.
100%. And how hilarious was that Gavin Sawchuk touchdown where he's running down the middle of the field, literally looking at the sideline, trying to decide, should I score? In the middle of a play, he's having a conversation with the sideline essentially and ran along the goal line. Mm-hmm. I've never seen that before. I've seen guys trying to be indecisive, like, should I get down? But he was literally looking at the sideline in the middle of a play.
The entire run seemed like.
Hilarious play. I'm going to probably put that up as a YouTube short because that was ridiculous. If you want to watch that, that'll be up as a short probably at some point this week. A big negative today that OU fans are going to want to hear about, the kicking situation is dire. Okay, they missed 2 more today. Zach Schmidt, you know, he's had some nice moments. He's been the kicker for a year and a half, but he's also proven to be just really inconsistent. 2 more misses in this game today. Brent Venables stood by him in postgame. Not that you'd expect him really to do anything otherwise. I think he was going to make a kicker change. He wouldn't sit up there and say it postgame and rip his guy. Yeah. He stood by him, said he's still our guy moving forward. But, James, it's a problem. You can't – if you're not feeling confident about field goals from really any distance, that's not good. That's going to hurt you at some point in a close game.
And this is kind of what I've been saying on the podcast. Like, this Sooners offense, everything that they do scoring-wise is too reliable on Dylan Gabriel. Like, you don't have a run game. And now, all of a sudden, the special teams and kicking, you can't count on that either. And, you know, that's tough. I mean, as a quarterback, that's tough. He literally has to do everything for this offense for them to score points. And that's not a place where you want to be, especially for a team that has playoff aspirations like Oklahoma Sooners do. Yeah. So that's a very worrisome situation to be in right now.
Yeah, 100%. That's something that it hasn't bit him yet, but it kind of did for a while. And like you said, Boomer for UCF is drilling darn near 50-yarders out here, and that was the difference in the game for a while. Was one team's got a kicker drilling field goals, one team doesn't. They got it. They persevered through it, but that's something that obviously we're gonna have to keep an eye on moving through the rest of the season. So on that note, Kansas up next on the road. The Jayhawks certainly have got some firepower offensively, defensively, maybe not so much. We'll talk about that game a lot in the week ahead. The good thing for Oklahoma here is they won the game, right? We've seen for years, going back to Lincoln Riley, to Bob Stoops, that Oklahoma has had games like this where they're big favorite, everything's cruising along, they're 6-0 like they were today, and then they stub their toe and they lose a game they shouldn't lose. That kind of was what today felt like, but they found a way. They got the job done. They're 7-0. Oklahoma is in a position they don't really need. They have the luxury of being able to say, if we just keep winning, we'll be fine, because they're undefeated. They've already beat Texas. Just kind of temperature check for you moving forward. I don't read personally too much into this. I think it was just one of those games. I don't think Oklahoma's bad now. You know what I mean? I think Oklahoma's still really good. They played very off today, probably their worst played game of the year today, and they still found a way to win against a solid team. Is that kind of you feel as well, or are you more concerned moving forward?
I'm where you are. I mean, it's so rare for a college football team to be perfect every single week of the season. It's just not something that typically happens. I mean, Brent Venables talked about it as well. All the championship teams that he's been on, I mean, they've had games like this where it's just a close dogfight. You know, one of those games you're not supposed to be in, but if you find a way to win, that says a lot about your team. Because obviously, if you watch that game, OU did not play their best game over, without a doubt. Yeah. And they still were able to overcome that. They won the game, and that we can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, 100%. So there you have it. 7-0, Oklahoma. Oklahoma.247sports.com. There's lots of content there for you, a lot more on the way. Also on the YouTube channel here from Brent Venables, both coordinators, Dylan Gabriel, and a slew of other players. That'll be up in just a little bit. Obviously, tune in on Monday. The two of us, Tom Green, will really get to flesh this game out with our full post-game podcast, or game breakdown, I should say, on Monday as we continue to lay out all the ins and outs of this game. Oklahoma found a way. Wasn't always pretty. It got scary. It was tense in this place for a while, but they found a way to get the job done. 7-0. Next up, the Kansas Jayhawks in Lawrence next Saturday. Going to be a fun one. Looking forward to that coming up in a week. That's it for now. For James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll see you on Monday for the Sooners Illustrated podcast.